Welcome back to School Calisthenics. It is Tim and Jacko, and we are back for lesson 2 in our core principles.
So in this lesson, we're going to have a look at how we maintain alignment when we're using core exercises, and that transfers into so many of our calisthenics movements. In lesson 1, we looked about how we create tension to hold a shape in the hollow body. Now we're going to up the game a little bit into some more advanced movements and see if we can hold postural control and transfer force through a dragon flag and some rollouts. The dragon flag is a calisthenics classic, and if you can get these nailed down, we know that we've got the core working hard for us. So Jacko's going to give us a quick demonstration. I'll talk you through the coaching points. So what he's going to do is hold on to something stable. He's going to just pike himself up and get up into this high position. His job now is in this start shape is to really create that tension, just like in the hollow rock. He's got to squeeze his bum on. He's creating lots of stability around the hips and into the midsection, and he's going to start to lower himself down. And as he comes slow down to the floor, the real kicker with this one is what the hip wants to do when he pulls back up. He has to drive hard from that lower abdominal to keep the pelvis tucked up underneath, maintain that hollow body position, and keeping the force contained in the system. You'll see if he does a bad one now, he lets that go, and all of a sudden it just pikes his feet back up. He hasn't maintained that nice long disc shape that we looked at in lesson 1, and we're not getting such a clean, tidy dragon flag. These are not easy, so there's some progressions to work on instead. The first one, a tool from the locker, is just to lower down using the eccentric. So slowly coming down, holding as low as you can go, and then try and hang out in that bottom position for 5 seconds or so. You can then go back down to the floor, you can then pike yourself back up, and you can rep some of these out. So just focus on the lower and then isometric hold at the bottom, all the while making sure that you're keeping high quality movement and postural control through the hips. The second one he's going to do is he's going to come down. He's just lowering himself down towards the floor. He's not going to worry about the isometric. He's just going to go as low as he can, and he's just going to then let his feet fall down onto the floor. Because this long lever position, the closer to the ground he gets, it really starts to crack a load of tension into the middle. So these are not easy. If that's difficult, we can start to decrease the lever length, so actually how much weight we've got away from the midsection. So in this one, Jacko's just bent his foot, so his foot goes on to his opposite leg. This is just decreasing the amount of weight there is hanging out here, so it makes it quite a bit easier. And you can then start to play around with this position and make it more difficult by gradually moving the foot closer to the other one and making, again, just adjusting that weight. Really nice, easy progression without any equipment for the dragon flags.
The second exercise we're going to look at to be able to hold and maintain this good core alignment is the ring rollout. Now, we've set the rings up nice and low because obviously Tim's got a great core, but we're going to show you some ways that we can drop this back down. So starting with Tim's got his feet underneath the rings, and then they're nice and low to the floor. A couple of things before he gets going. He's not going to just roll those and push those hands out without bracing and getting ready for that position, because what is going to happen is he's going to lose that trunk and we get this arch position in the back. So what he's doing is he's going to tense his ab like he's ready to take a punch, bang, and then he's got his glutes on like he's holding a £50 note between them, or a €50 note, or whatever currency is in your homeland, between those butt cheeks, and he doesn't want to lose it on a windy day. So once he's got those two things stabilising the pelvis, he's then going to challenge to be able to maintain that. He reaches forward. He's getting the shoulders have to work quite hard on this, as well as the core. And the glutes, trying to maintain that hip alignment. So he's always trying to keep that straight body line. He comes down slightly with his body as he goes forward, and then he's driving as he comes back up. He's not losing that midsection. So if we want to make these a little bit easier, what we can start to do, if you find that's difficult and you drive out and you feel that your midsection drops and your hips drop, he's going to walk the feet further forward. So all of a sudden now, as he goes forward, what you're going to see is that he doesn't go quite as low, because we're starting to move that angle slightly higher up, and he can pull back down. It's really important with these types of exercises, you work in a position where you can maintain that and that all the way through the range. So don't work at something too hard, because if you go too hard and you break in the midsection, show us one where you break in the midsection. If you're making something too hard for yourself and you go down, then you lose that line, you get this arch through here. All of a sudden it's all these erectors, spinal and your lower back musculature that's holding the position, rather than it coming from your abs and your bum. The other common mistake that often happens, rather than just arching that back, is that we don't actually take the hips with us. So we go out forward and we have this like pike position here and those hips are left behind. So as you go forward, take your hips with you and actually push the hips forward so you're keeping that nice straight body line and you maintain it on the way back up as well. Your other option in terms of making this slightly easier rather than just adjusting your foot position is adjusting the length of the ring. So now Tim's got his feet in the same position as when they were super low, but it's not going to be anywhere near as hard because all of a sudden the rings aren't as long and therefore he's creating that same body line but he's slightly further up in terms of his angle. So it's all to do with the angle that your body is at when you're going out into this rollout. The higher up your angle, the easier it's going to be. The more difficult you want to make that angle go lower by either moving your feet back or adjusting the rings, or you can actually adjust both, take your feet back or forward and change the length of the rings.
So there's two great core exercises which are going to help you to understand and train yourself to be able to maintain body alignment through the core, keeping tension in the chain and transferring force from hands to toes.
Now they might not be, and certainly aren't, the only two exercises that you can do for holding and maintaining that core and trunk alignment, but they are two of our absolute favourites, and I hope you can see how effectively those two exercises are going to be in transferring into some of your more advanced movements like your handstand positions and any of your front or back lever positions where you're having to hold and maintain your body out in a straight line.
One of the great things about core training in calisthenics, or calisthenics for the core, is actually you're doing it all the time. So whatever movement you're doing, you're activating that chain and you keep in tension. So that's why it's such a great way to move and way to train, because you're just doing core training all the time rather than going, right, I've finished my session now, I've got to go and do a few crunches. The big thing for me, take home message, is to train at a level which you can control and maintain perfect posture. Every time you allow yourself to move badly or to compensate in some way to decrease movement quality, you're reinforcing poor movement patterns. The brain learns that, and then when you go take that into one of your movements like Jacko says, if that's a lever or even a muscle up, you're just reinforcing poor movement. You're going to get that outcome when you try and stick it all together again. So train at a level which you can control and always be strict with yourself on technique.
So until next week.
Class dismissed.